Hey, this is the continuation, part two of the video of my story about ulcerative colitis. And I didn't realize my videos are limited to a certain number of minutes, and the last video had reached the end. So this is a continuation. At the last video, I was saying that I realized that diet was a big part of my illness of ulcerative colitis. And I knew I had to find myself a diet that was going to keep me from ever getting sick again. And there was this guy online who I had subscribed to, and he was one of the first pioneers of had a website about a blog, a website about raw food and training and things like that. And when I did searches, his site would come up near the top of the list. So I decided to give him my email address and subscribe to his newsletter. So I was getting his newsletters. They were getting a little bit tedious. He was sending me a lot more stuff than I wanted to get, and he was selling some products and things online that I was probably not going to ever buy. And so I was getting a bit upset with that stuff, but he occasionally sent me something very interesting. And around 2006, one of the emails that he sent, this would be, October of 2006, and he said there's a new book by Dr. Douglas Graham, and it's called The 80-10-10 Diet. And he said it's the best book he's ever read about diet. And it was very interesting to me to hear something like that. So I didn't even know who Douglas Graham was. I sort of knew who he was, but I thought he was just another one of those product peddler type of guys, and he was just into raw food, but he doesn't, there's a lot of people like that are into raw food, but they're just peddling a bunch of products and supplements, and I really didn't know much about them. So I was very curious. I went and ordered the book. I went to Douglas Graham's site actually to order the book, and the book arrived. I don't like to read too much. Unfortunately, I'm not much of a reader. I sometimes will pick up a book and it'll take me months to read it, and sometimes I'll never finish, and sometimes I will. But this book had like 250 pages, and within 2 to 3 days, I read the whole book. I just have to keep reading the next page, turning the next page, and it was a big eye opener. I read it, and everything just resonated. Everything just, wow! It was just jumping off the pages and thinking, I could have written this book. It just makes so much logical sense, and it was somewhat of a continuation of what I already knew about natural hygiene and the information that I learned from this Dr. Klein, but it was more details, and he went into examples, and he explains everything in there, and it just was a big eye-opener change to me. And so I immediately realized what I was doing, which was eating a lot of nut butters and those nut breads and seed breads and nut butters and oils and a lot of avocados and meals of avocados, and mixing sweet fruits with fatty fruits, and mixing some subacid fruits, or nuts and whatever the bad combinations of foods that I was eating. Basically sweet and and sweet and acid fruits. I didn't really care if they mixed them together, and so that's why I had some issues with those, and so I learned. I looked up online and found out even more information about food combining. David Klein actually had a chart in his book that I started following more carefully, and a lot of the small problems were getting resolved. And I immediately started eating that way. I started eating all of my meals, almost 100% of my food was coming from raw fruits and vegetables. And I was eating like mono meals of one type of fruit. I would eat just enough bananas to fill myself up, which usually is 10 or 12, sometimes as many as 13, 14 bananas. And that would be one example. I'd eat a pound or a pound and a half of really wet, fresh dates, or I would eat sometimes as much as 64 ounces of orange juice, or whatever I could find that would fill me up. Oh, it would be melons, lots of like three cantaloupes or two or three honeydews. Sometimes I would eat two of those personal watermelons, sometimes three of them. And so I was finding different ways and different unique ways to get my nutrition. And I started doing that in around 2006. I would usually have a salad that almost every day. Some days I would miss it, and other days I would have more salad. Sometimes I go to a restaurant that has a salad bar. It's all you can eat, and I would just scarf down as much salad as I could. And I would probably make 2 days or 3 days of salad on one day. Have enough salad on one day for 2 or 3 days, and then sometimes I would miss a day here, miss a day there. Sometimes I would even miss longer than one day without salads. But I always eventually come back to having a big salad because salads are one of the things I crave occasionally. I just want to have them sometimes. And when I say salad, it'll be like a whole huge, big romaine lettuce, or iceberg lettuce, or red leaf lettuce, or green leaf lettuce, or something like that. Sometimes there'll be tomatoes on it. Sometimes I'll have cucumbers with it. Sometimes I'll just put it in a smoothie. Whichever way I can eat it, that would be salad. Sometimes I buy these prepared wash salads, which I know are not as good as buying an actual organic lettuce. They are organic, but I know because when I was living in Hawaii, I was actually buying things from a kitchen that was doing the preparation, and I found out that they actually uh, treat these lettuce leaves with a mixture of vinegar and water. Even though they're called organic, they are treated with vinegar. Now, there's not a lot of vinegar on them, but they do treat them in order to wash the leaves. They do treat them with vinegar, and they put them in this special machine that vibrates and gets rid of the dirt and the vinegar from the leaves. But there's definitely a residue of vinegar. You probably can't taste it, but there's probably a tiny little residue of vinegar. So if you eat that kind of salad that's in the bags and in the plastic containers all the time, you're probably going to get too much vinegar. But if you eat it on occasion, it's probably not much of an issue. So I was just eating that way as much as I can. I used to have some cravings for other foods, and I drop back and I give myself like one cooked meal, vegan cooked meal a week, and then later on I started thinking that I don't need to do this anymore, and I started eating one vegan meal every 3 or 4 weeks, and then slowly I started eating one vegan cooked meal every couple of months, down to maybe once every 4, 5, or 6 months, and then slowly I just went 100% on raw food and raw vegan fruits and vegetable diet. Uh, there are sometimes occasions when my mood isn't too good and I'm going through stress or whatever, and I do fall back and have another cooked meal once in a while. But it really adds up. If I do the math in my head, it comes out to no more than 2 to 3% of my overall diet. And even though it's 9 years, that doesn't bother me at all. I will jump right back into the regular diet like the next meal, and it's like I don't I don't worry about it at all. And now it's 9 years since I went on this diet, and I have not had any symptoms of ulcerative colitis, have not seen a doctor. I have not seen a doctor for any reason except one time I had an injury and I had gone to the hospital because I had an injury. But other than that, I have not seen a doctor for any kind of medical condition, not for colds or flus or fevers, or definitely not for colitis. I have not had any symptoms, no bleeding, no diarrhea. Occasionally I'd have a cramp or something, but I always could trace that back to something I ate, or sometimes there's fruit that has something in it that was bad or unripe or something, and I could trace it back to something I ate, and then usually several hours later it goes away, and then it's over, and it's definitely nothing to do with ulcerative colitis. So I did have like a tiny issue in 2008. I did see a tiny bit of blood, and I fasted for, I think it was a week. I just did an experiment. I did a water fast for a week. After that week, I came off the fast with watermelon. Did a watermelon mono diet for just a few days. I think it was 3 days, and then the bleeding disappeared, and I never ever saw, like, in the whole 9 years, besides that one event, which I have no idea what it was or what caused it, and it went away pretty quickly. I have not had any ulcerative colitis issues whatsoever. So there goes that is my story. And being the raw traveler now, I don't worry about what I eat and how often and where the food comes from. I just eat when I'm hungry. I try to make sure I have ripe and organic, ready to eat fruit available to me. That the best way to do that almost everywhere in the world is by getting bananas and trying to keep them at the room temperature for 2 to 3 days or 4 days, and they become spotty and ripe, and then they're ready to eat. Make sure you have sufficient quantities of them. Find yourself a place that you can get fruit from, and make sure to collect your frequent flyer miles at your hotel points, and we'll see you on a flight real soon. Bye.